Well, hello! Welcome to the Resident Evil 2 Remake RPD. This is a map by Jolly Wally. So I'm not going to be doing any VRC map exploration for this video. This is a storytime video about some incidents where I was unintentionally involved in some Resident Evil leaks. Unfortunately, even as a someone who is a hardcore fan of Resident Evil, I don't have a lot to talk about or really post videos in regards to the recent games. Because the series, like, for a while has been mostly focused on, remaking the old games or the Ethan Winters trilogy. Supposedly there's supposed to be a third game. I thought they were implying there was going to be a third part to the whole Ethan Winters saga. And while I enjoy the gameplay for, like, Resident Evil 7, Village, Resident Evil Remake 2 especially, and then the remake for Resident Evil 4, I think it's been especially good. I think just, for some reason, compared to games of the past, though, I just feel kind of, like, disconnected from it now. I don't have that same attachment that I used to with the series, and it's kind of a shame. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just, like, I don't know if it's the characters. It might be the characters. I wonder if it's the characters. Maybe I'm just not feeling it anymore. Even though the environments and the gameplay and the atmosphere and everything is nice. Maybe there's a certain, like, balance, a certain union of aspects that have to, like, come together, compare to the older games that's gotta really hook me in. But this video isn't about critiquing the series as it has been in recent. This is a story time about some leak incidents that I was involved in regards to Resident Evil in the past. Some past leak incidents. And I want you to keep in mind that with these incidents, I was never someone that intentionally tried to post stuff publicly. In regards to, like, information that was data mined from games or potential spoilers or anything like that. I just ended up, there was two specific incidents where, like, say, even if you were sharing information with, like, someone privately or in an indirect, non-public way, there's always a chance, this whole thing when I explain them, it's sort of a lesson in what not to do, or to be careful if you are someone who chooses to delve into, someone who chooses to data mine or delve into, like, spoilery stuff before a game is out. It's not something I actually do anymore. Funny enough, even though I was big into, like, data mining and things like that back then, I still enjoy, like, data mining games and things like that, and figuring out, like, and even discovering cut content. Obviously, I have a SMT5 cut content video where I data mined the shit out of, as much as I possibly could, out of SMT5, but it was way after the game was out. And that's something, if I do consider data mining games or looking into content that people can't easily get access to, it's usually going to be after a game is out, not before anymore. But it's not something I did a whole lot of anyways, even in my past as a Resident Evil fan. But I will say that in regards to sharing information, like, even if you're sharing information that's like a spoiler or something that was data mined from game before, like, people have fully played it when it was first out or something, you have to be careful when sharing information with other people. Like, even someone that you might trust or maybe even half trust, because you never know if that information's going to get out. Like, you gotta be careful. And that's pretty much what happened in the two cases of the leaks that I was involved in. Also, I feel like enough time has passed between those particular leak incidents and the people involved. I won't mention any names. Especially since it wasn't, in regards to those leaks, it was definitely not something that happened on my own. Other people were involved, but I think enough time has passed that I can talk about those, and sort of like, I think they're also just interesting to know about, if you want to know kind of my history as a Resident Evil fan and some of the, like, community stuff I end up getting involved with. But the two incidents involve Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Revelations 2. And I want to go over the Resident Evil Revelations 2 leak first, because it's a really simple one. Honestly, really quick, simple thing that happened that resulted in it getting out. And the Resident Evil 5 one in particular, it's complicated because I want to also, in regards to that one, because it was tied to a forum that I was a member of, and you know, it was tied to a Resident Evil site that I posted news to. That one's a bit more complicated and longer, and I do want to explain some of the history regarding there, so I'm going to cover the incident revolving Resident Evil 2 Revelations first. Okay, Resident Evil Revelations 2. Now, if you haven't played the second Revelations before, if you don't already know, it was a unique case of release for a Resident Evil game because they wanted to focus on an episodic format, which means before they actually released the game as a whole, and I think they did this later on, at least for like for the console releases and the PC release, but this was like, I think they released the whole version of the game way after the game had already been out. But what they were doing for Resident Evil Revelations 2 is they were doing an episodic thing, which means, I don't know if this was the case in console, can't remember, but I know for the PC release, they were releasing it in chunks. And I guess because of the nature of the game and who was involved in the story of the game, there was a very particular, like, very important figure that got revealed to be in the story of the game. They wanted to do it episodic because they wanted people to, like, treat it like, I don't know, like a TV series. They were trying to Netflix it, I guess. It's not something, when I think about it now, when I look back on it, it's not something I agree with, really. Like, I get it, you want to kind of treat it as like a TV show, but doing that with a video game, I don't know. Trying to chop up a video game in chunks and just, it's not something I agree with, really. But that's what they wanted to do. So they would release the game in episodic chunks. So you play the game, it would get to a certain part of the story, and then it stops, and then you have to wait for the next one to come out to continue playing. And it's interesting because it came out to PC, and I had already had experience with data mining games. In fact, the whole thing that started me getting into like data mining and using certain tools to like be able to extract assets was like being interested in just like it was very casual stuff too. I was like, I like fooling around with the 3D models of the characters, and I want to create like new like appearances and things like that to mess around with the Agent-RedJackal, which is like a posing program. And a lot of people used it and to make scenes and things like that with the characters. This happened like way back too. My usage of Agent-RedJackal actually started like, I want to say 2007, 2008 is when I started using it. Because a lot of people would like port the models online, and so it was just kind of fun to be like, if you're a fan of something, it was like, I want to, you know, take the model ports and environment ports and just do different things with them. But at the same time, it allowed me to get into like texture modding. So I would post stuff in Agent-RedJackal, but then in like outside programs, in like a 3D program or something, I would edit the like clothing textures or whatever else like that separately. So that kind of first got me interested in texture modding for models, and of course eventually that led to me doing texture mods for characters and other things that you could actually use in games. But due to that, that gradually led to me learning how to data mine assets and stuff for myself from games. In fact, like the most of what I did started when Resident Evil 5 came out, because I was interested in like potential cut content and like, you know, looking into files to see how they did certain things in the games. Resident Evil was when I fully delved into that. But so by the time Resident Evil Revelations 2 came out, I already knew like how to do a lot of that stuff. And then, you know, of course, tools would get updated, and so that people could when a new game came out, you know, people had ways of like, you know, extracting the assets from those. And sometimes people, you know, thankfully to that, like, you know, those kind of projects, you have shit like the UHD mod for Resident Evil 4, where, you know, people for years spent a lot of effort actually just like completely, like, you know, upscaling or redoing the textures for Resident Evil 4, and it looks fucking beautiful. In fact, the UHD project is kind of one of the reasons why, when they announced doing a remake for Resident Evil 4, I was like, wait, why do they need to do that when the UHD project exists? It makes the game look fucking beautiful. You don't need to remake it. Whatever. But, due to that experience, when Capcom was doing the episodic release of Resident Evil Revelations 2, I got curious, because I knew how things got left in the files. And especially from my experience of stuff related to Resident Evil 5, even in a demo for a game, you start learning, like, when you get into data mining, or if you read up on stuff that happens when it comes to, like, extracting assets for games, or when people go through the data of games, even for demos, actually learn how much, like, stuff gets left in the demos that are from, like, late game. Like very spoilery stuff just gets left in those demos, and it's just like from the way they tend to like create the demos. Usually it's just like they don't like create a completely separate thing. It's like they just take a chunk of the game and then like put it into, like, make a demo out of it. Now I think because of that, because of the fact, from the way they tend to do demos, and from the fact that a lot of, like, late game shit is sometimes, like, some data ends up even in the demo, I think that's why now you have, like, time restricted demos. I think they've been doing that with the Resident Evil demos, the ones that have come out. I don't know about, like, Resident Evil 4 in recent, like, I don't remember if they had a demo for that. But I know for Resident Evil 2, they specifically did it. I think 3, they did it. Of course, people are able to get around that anyways and still look at the files. It doesn't really stop people. But I think that's one of the reasons why they're very restrictive on the demos now. Because people are able to mine through the data and find a lot of interesting stuff. And, you know, if you do something like that, you really need to be responsible. Because I'm not condoning it, even as someone who used to do it. If that's something, you know, that's something you should mainly keep to yourself. And of course, especially if it's done when a game first comes out, or if a demo comes out, you don't want to be an asshole and, like, put that stuff out there intentionally and try and spoil people. Even as someone who did data mining, like, even with these instances, it was never an intention to actually have that information, like, just completely go public and spread like it did. But yeah, I got curious about Resident Evil 2 Revelations at the episode, because I was like, okay, if they're releasing the game in chunks, how much data is, like, left over from, like, later in the game? What exactly kind of stuff would you find if you look through the files of, like, the first episode? And I found that out. When I actually data mined Resident Evil 2 Revelations, or Resident Evil Revelations 2, they actually had, I don't know if you had to buy it. It's like a separate thing you had to buy. I don't remember, or if they even had it out at the time. I don't think they did, because if they had like a mini art book that showed all the characters and stuff for Resident Evil Revelations 2 that you can get a hold of, but I'm pretty sure they did not have that out before all the episodes were out for the game. But when I looked at the first episode stuff, I found the concept art of Alex Wesker. In the first episode, I came across an image from it was from the mini art book, and they had that in the files for the first episode. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is in here too? And there was other things I came across, but I saw that, and the thing is I don't think it was, like, labeled as Alex Wesker as the time. It was like sort of mystery person, but I think I ended up putting together that it was Alex Wesker. And I made the mistake of in private conversations with someone on a specific social site way back, I happened to bring that up, and they got them interested, and they're like, oh, you don't mind sharing it with me, sharing the image with me. And of course, that image that I pulled from the files, it was cropped It was captured in a very specific way. So, and this is how... This is how I know that it got around, is because it was cropped a very specific way. But that person that asked, it was somebody on a specific social site, and the thing was like, I should have known better, because it was someone that I couldn't completely trust. It's someone that wasn't like a best friend or someone that I talked to a whole bunch. It was just like sort of like a light acquaintance that I had some Resident Evil related conversations with. They're like, oh, you don't mind if I show them the image, right? Like, can I see it like a little bit and stuff? And I was like, oh, I guess it couldn't hurt, it's just in like a private DM, if they say they're not going to share it, it should be good, right? It's not like they're a well-known like poster to a Resident Evil news site or anything like that. They're not going to try and share it for clout or anything, because I'll definitely go into it later when I talk about the other incident, but that was a big thing for a while, and I think it's still a thing. Honestly, it's still a thing. It's still a thing where game news sites want to be the first to get a hold of like new information, even like if there's a leak. They'll be fucking on it. They'll be on it pretty fast. All the different sites, everyone wants to get a hold of the information first, and sometimes it's done for clout. Or just to get, they want to get the attention first before everyone else. It's a race to get that information. But this person wasn't one of those people. It was just like, just a regular like user in the community that wasn't well known or anything. I was like, it should be fine, right? So I did share that image with them, that concept art of Alex Wesker, and sometime after, it wasn't even that long, I was hearing about that particular concept art getting out, and people were fucking talking about it, and the timing was very suspicious. The timing was very suspicious, and I was like, nah, that couldn't have been the one I shared, right? There's no fucking way. There had to have been someone else dating my new boss, right? That found that? It could be me. That could be me. And like, I came across some postings about it on fucking NeoGAF when it was around. NeoGAF was like the big site where shit got posted, especially leaks and everything. And I looked at the thread and everything about it where people were discussing it, and I decided to look at the picture that was posted there, because I was like, okay, maybe someone else got it and posted there. No, it was a specific crop. It was a specific crop that I sent to that one person, and somehow, and I don't quite know how fast this happened. It's probably within a week. Surely it was in a week. But that somehow, through the pipeline of whoever that person shared the picture with, it ended up on NeoGAF. It ended up on NeoGAF. And so, thankfully, hopefully, I don't remember if any like actual Resident Evil news sites were posting that out on their front page or anything. And if they did, and you got spoiled by that, I'm fucking sorry, because that is like, they shouldn't be doing that in the first place. And when I mentioned the second incident, it's tied to that, like people trying to, be the first to race to be the first to like be the first to post, leaks and spoiler information before a game is out. So because of what I did, that concept art of Alex Wesker got leaked early, and I had no idea. That would happen. And like I said, I don't remember if news sites were posting it on the front page or anything of like their coverage. But if they did, well, it sucks if they did. They shouldn't have done that. And that was something I definitely did not intend to leak at all. So, like I said earlier, it's a lesson in when it comes to games coming out and sharing information. Don't trust anyone. Do not trust anyone. If you know some information and, that about a game, if you discover it and the game's not fully out yet, and it's something you can only get in the files of the game, like in a demo or something, or an episodic release with what they're doing with Resident Evil Revelations 2, just keep it to yourself. keep it to yourself, because you don't share it, not even with one person, because you never know how that's gonna go out. And it kind of reminds me, I know this is not Resident Evil related, but it kind of reminds me of I guess an incident that happened to Midori, which is like the Persona SMT leaker. Maybe I don't have my information correct, but I think there was an incident where Midori had shared information with someone else, and that person went to another content creator that's known for also giving out leaks. I might have my information correct, and I really don't want to discuss that because there was drama around it. But yeah, I kind of, if that was actually the case, it did remind me of the thing that happened to me, where it's like you can't fully trust, like, even people you might be on friendly terms with information like that. So it's probably just best to like keep it to yourself. Second incident involves Resident Evil 5. It involves the demo that came out, and that demo had like 2 specific areas that you can explore. I don't remember, I think there might have been like 2 demos that were released for Resident Evil 5, but people were getting the, acquiring the demo from the Xbox version, I think, able to get the files from that. So before I discuss that though, this incident involves a forum that I used to post to, and a site that I actually used to post news to, like on the front page. I was picked up as someone to post news, and it was something very exciting for me. But it was kind of like that site and the forum that I got involved in. It's kind of like the first time I fully like decided to be proactive and delve into the Resident Evil community. And when I first started interacting with people on that forum, I'm gonna admit it was definitely not a good time. Like, Resident Evil 5, I don't think Resident Evil 5, like before the release of Resident Evil 5, was a good time to get in the community at all. It was so vitriolic. I mean, it's bad enough that, like, when Resident Evil 4 happened, I guess the community got really splintered, because it's like, oh, the series is moving away from survival horror, and now it's action horror, you know, all that shit. But honestly, the fandom, the community has been like that for a long time. From what I hear, when Resident Evil 2 came out, even way back in the day, on the earliest game forums, people were bitching about shit even then. The community's been fighting since Resident Evil 2. Maybe in the first one, and that's the case when you have a series that ends up being more niche at first and becomes more mainstream later, and you know, the company decides to make decisions to make the game appeal to a wider audience and all that sort of things. It is funny that it's unfortunate that Resident Evil 4 is always getting targeted for splintering the community, when there's a dev interview that has Shinji Mikami and a bunch of other devs. I think it's the one where they're getting drunk and they're just shooting the shit about Resident Evil. But I'm pretty sure Shinji Mikami mentioned, like, when Resident Evil 2 sold really well, the company was like, okay, what else can we do to make it sell even more, to appeal to a wider audience? And he said that Capcom wanted to focus on, like, Resident Evil 3 is when they started focusing on more action. And that's very obvious when you play the game. It's a game that like, you know, it's sort of moving away from its survival horror roots. It's taking place in a very, like, more open environment. You have a lot more stuff you can do mobility-wise and everything. There's a lot of, like, action and events that are, like, just going on in that. That's what started the action stuff in Resident Evil, not Resident Evil 4. It was already going in that direction since Resident Evil 2 sold well. But because of that, like, I think it's really hard to get into the Resident Evil fandom, because it's always been, there's a lot of fighting, but over stuff. I suppose that's not different from other fandoms for other game series that had, like, that was more niche, that started out more niche, and I want to say a lot of games that tend to have more restrictive elements, that have more, like, that stick to their roots for a while, that have more traditional roots when it comes to, like, gameplay, tend to attract, like, a very hardcore audience. Like they have their own specific audience that gets very attached to it, and so when the game starts straying away from that later on and appealing to the mainstream, it's Oh, the vitriol. I feel like that, I noticed that, getting into, like, the SMT and Persona fandom, too. It's like, I didn't get into it early. I got into it late, and that was already happening. The fighting and the drama and the vitriol and that. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's just, if you get into a community or fandom for a game series, one that, like, started out pretty niche, you're just gonna have to accept that's the way it is, unfortunately. And honestly, sometimes the best way to deal with that is just actually not to interact with people too much. I would say, especially on social media too, like, if you want to avoid it, just enjoy the games. Keep it, like, you might just have to keep your enjoyment of the games to yourself. Or just, share stuff you like about the games, and then ignore people who are trying to start fights. I guess that's the only way you can deal with it, really. Or you can do like me and just, like, make videos. Just make videos and talk at, like, an audience of whoever, keep some distance that way. But yeah, I had a site. I will mention the site that I got involved in. It was Ari Har, which I'm pretty sure does not exist anymore. Ari Har became, I think some people end up splintering off from that and running Rely on Horror now, which I think is still around. Like, Rely on Horror has been around for quite a while now. And when they splintered off, I think I followed and was kind of posting some new stuff for Rely on Horror for a while, but eventually I, like, just sort of drifted away from the whole, like, posting news to website or forum business, and moved away when Twitter got more popular. Around the time, like, Darkside Chronicles was coming out for Resident Evil, Capcom was doing more, like, promo stuff on Twitter, and so I eventually, like, started using Twitter more, and that caused me to use, like, things like forums and stuff less. And I was still, in terms of forums, I was still kind of using, I ended up, like, going over to Biohaze for a while, and I think, like, as like sort of the final game forum that I was sort of active in, it was pretty chill, like, to a point, like, compared to a lot of the other sites that I got involved in the forums, because, the forums for the different Resident Evil sites kind of had their own little community, and sometimes that little, like, group didn't always like communities from the other sites. That shit happened. But yeah, I end up posting to Biohaze for a while, and I think Biohaze is still around. I haven't checked on them in a long time. I think a lot of the people who are on those sites probably utilize stuff like Twitter more now, and Discord. Like, that's sort of how everyone's done the whole, like, community thing now. Everything's sort of just moved to Discord instead of forums. But, I had a rough time getting into that forum at first for Ari Horror. It was very vitriolic there. And I was trying to be a bit more open-minded and positive about Resident Evil 5, even despite being an older fan. And oh boy, there was so much back and forth about that shit in that forum. Even despite that, though, I was pretty persistent, even despite some people, like, treating me the way they did. I was persistent about posting news coverage about Resident Evil. They had, like, a thing in the forum, specific thread for posting new stuff, and I was pretty proactive about that. Like, I would always, like, it was kind of like, even despite what happened in the forum and the reaction some people had to me, like the fighting and stuff, I was like, I wanted to belong to something. It was like, oh, well, shit, I'm getting more involved in the community now, and it's an exciting thing for me, so I want to, like, kind of help out and stuff. And so I would post, I would find a bunch of stuff. I would even find stuff from Japanese sites for Resident Evil, and I think because of that, for a while, some of the people who ran the site noticed that and decided to put me on for posting news. Like, I got sort of hired on. It was voluntary. Didn't get paid for it at all. It was just a completely voluntary thing. Also, I'll mention that this was, like, back in my early 20s, too, because this was, like, around the time before Resident Evil 5 came out. So I want to say, like, 2007, 2008. is when I did a lot of the news posting on RE Horror. And of course, since I was a younger person, like I was pretty proactive about the news, but sometimes I would get, sometimes the way I would post news would be a bit excitable. So they had like, some of the guys there at that site, I don't know, the temperament, I don't know, I guess they wanted to maintain a certain, like, a very, like, professional air of news posting on the site. So, like, if you weren't, if you were less than professional about the way you would write things or post things to the site, then they kind of, like, pull you back and be like, hey, or I would have stuff that I posted edited sometimes. So, it was sometimes a little rough. But I still pushed through and was very persistent about posting news. Because, like, hey, I'm part of something. I want to do it. I want to help out. That eventually, because of my activity there, eventually, like, when it came to promo stuff, and if I find examples of this while I'm explaining it, I will actually post it on the screen. But because of my activity on RE Horror and helping the site out with the news and, like, helping to promote it in certain instances, when Capcom had, like, promotion contests specifically for Resident Evil 5, there are two things that I end up being involved with, and one of them I think you can still get access to, but there was a contest they had where you had to share links to a bunch of different people, invite them to a specific thing. So between all the different Resident Evil sites, there was this thing where they had to, like, post this specific, like, link to invite people to, and you would email it to people and share it to as many people as possible. And I think through me and a bunch of other people, RE Horror ended up winning that contest. And so they had a site where they would show, like, who got the top thing, and you had to choose someone to represent that site. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because, like, the people who ran the site didn't want to show themselves, like, physically, and I kind of, like, I honestly don't know if I should have done it, because, I was younger at the time. I was adult, of course, but, like, sometimes when you look at back at internet stuff where you posted, like, your real life self, like pictures of your real life self to a site or something way back, you're like, man, should I have done that? It's not like it's easy to get a hold of now, and I used a pretty flattering picture too. I can probably find it. I will post the one that I used, but because Capcom wanted a picture of someone to represent the site that won the contest for promoting stuff related to Resident Evil 5, I was asked to submit my picture, and I went with it. Like, I was excited, but I don't know if I was completely comfortable with it. And this might have been the case with the other thing too, that another promotional thing where I ended up on a Resident Evil site. But I did it. I submitted the picture, and I don't know if the site's accessible now. But if you've ever seen, if you have been in the fandom for a long time and you saw that site in that particular picture, then yeah, that's me on there. I was used to represent the site, RE Horror. I don't know if that's something to be proud of, to be honest. On one hand, it's like, wow, it's cool that happened. On the other hand, because of the particular leak incident that I was unintentionally involved in, it's like, I don't know. Do I really want to be, okay with the association? But things happen, and it is what it is, and you just gotta accept what happened. The second promotional thing, I'll mention this too, is that there was another promotional thing where Capcom would have your body, like, you would be basically made as a Magini and be put to walk around on the old Resident Evil 5 site. And I think you might be able to, through certain means, like Wayback Machine. There was, like, on the old Resident Evil site, you had, like, this little flash animation thing or whatever. There was an animation that played that showed Kajuju, and then you had different Magini, like, walking around, and then one amongst them would be the person who won that, whatever contest was tied to that, like, promotional thing. And once again, RE Horror ended up, like, winning that, and I was also chosen to submit pictures to become a Magini. Now, for that specific thing, I had to sign at like this contractor form, and fill it out and send it to Capcom so that they can use my likeness to make Magini out of. And I had to take full body pictures of myself, and I did it behind like a green screen or something. And I don't know if I'm really... I can't say that they, at the time, you know, I was younger, those pictures were the most flattering. Like, when I think about it now, it's like, oh, I sent, like, and the thing is, like, I wasn't sending this stuff to Capcom directly. I was sending those images for Capcom to use through the person that ran the site, so that, for them to send to Capcom. So I sent the pictures to that person first, and then they sent it to Capcom to use to represent the site and turn my body into a Magini. But it's like, oh man, I ended up like... I don't think those pictures were very flattering. That I took full body pictures with a green screen behind me. I had to take different angles, side view, front view, back view, so that they can create a 3D model out of it. And they turned me into Magini, and now my corpse, my younger self, is running around on that site. I think, like I said, you can probably access it on Wayback Machine, but my younger self as Magini is like still walking around somewhere on that website. But yeah, because my activity on the site, like the different things I was involved with, you know, they would post stuff. Whenever there was a news thing that happened that I brought up, it would get posted to the front page, even if I didn't post it myself. I wasn't the only one posting news to RE Horror. Like, there was other people that ran the site that posted news to it. So sometimes, when things get discussed in a forum or news or whatever else is posted in the forum itself, that would sometimes end up on the front page. Now, you have to keep in mind, I didn't mind posting certain things to the forum as much, because you actually have to, I don't know if it was locked to the public, because sometimes forums require you to sign up for you to actually see certain posts and everything, or attachments, or images, or anything. So it felt like it was still a little bit, if I posted something about a game, and maybe especially a spoiler thing, it still felt it was hidden enough to where it wasn't in the public view. But in regards to Resident Evil 5, there was the data from the demo that was extracted, and that included... The demo included information, and it was in Japanese, of different locations from the game. And that actually included late game locations. And that was posted to the forum. And I'm not sure why I did this. I guess it was just, you know, spoilers didn't bother me quite as much. Compared to other people, I don't do it. I definitely do not do it these days when it comes to the games and stuff in regards to spoilers. I definitely... I'm not this kind of person now, but back then, I guess the spoilers didn't matter to me as much, because context was more important when it came to information. It's like, just because you see like one little thing that might be tied to late game, it doesn't really spoil it for me. I gotta know like what exactly led to the characters of the game getting there, like what the events surrounding it and everything. So at the time, that thing, it didn't bother me to like look at that information, but I was like, okay, I guess just for fun, maybe I'll just in the forum itself, maybe I'll do like a rough translation of those locations. And of course, like that eventually, like you saw that in the late game, it was definitely late game, because when I translated stuff, one of the locations was the fucking volcano where Chris punches the boulder and fights Wesker. And one of the people who ran the site, decided, I guess because no one else was posting this information, and maybe they were doing it for clout or something, or to be the first to post it, but they decided to post that rough translated information of the locations, late game locations from Resident Evil 5 on the front page, and they also included the fact that I was the one who translated them, so they also tied my name to the leak of the information posted on the front page. Now, this was on the small Resident Evil site. It was one of the big ones. And because of that particular incident actually led to the site being barred from attending, I think, getting involved in like future Capcom events. Capcom fucking saw that. Capcom took notice of it. And, she's like, man, why'd you have to do that? And of course my name got tied to it, and it's like, nothing happened to me. But, because of that, I definitely, like, eventually, I moved away from doing stuff. I don't even know if if I ended up posting any more information after that. I might have still done it. But it definitely was a bad mark. The fact that the site did that, and of course, like, other Resident Evil sites took notice of what happened on RE Horror, and they're like, nope, we're not gonna have anything to do with you guys. We don't want to get barred from doing stuff with Capcom. No way. So it's unfortunate that happened. But yeah, that nothing else in terms of like leak stuff. I was not involved with anything like outside of that. I still did some data mining for Resident Evil games that I just kept to myself, and way after a lot of those games were out, I might have shared information, like if it was cut content, or if someone wanted me to find something in particular to like look in detail. And then of course I got involved with some modding some of the games too, and so that's why I would do data mining as well. But it's not something I do quite as much of anymore. And of course, like I said, in the beginning, I sort of have, there's a disconnect that I feel with the series now. Nothing wrong with the games, I just don't quite have I can't capture that spark that I had with the games before. And I think this is like, I'm pretty sure this had to have started when Capcom did Resident Evil 7. Actually, no, you know what? I think it was Resident Evil 6 that kind of fucked things up for me. I think that spark, that attachment to the series started to slowly die because of Resident Evil 6. And then like, I actually really liked Resident Evil 7. I played, even compared to Village, I played the fuck out of Resident Evil 7, but I think in regards to it being a Resident Evil game, because of how more on the supernatural side the demo for Resident Evil 7 felt, like it was treated as this big thing where people would discuss things that they would find in the demo for Resident Evil 7. I liked the game itself enough, and I detached it from Resident Evil. Like, I just liked the game. Like, it could have been, they could have made it a separate series, and I would have been fine. The whole Ethan Winters stuff. I would have just played it as a completely separate thing, but I think because they're tying it too much to Resident Evil and like stuff that happened in the past, it's like it causes a weird disconnect where I'm like, I don't know. The games, gameplay wise, I think they're good, but like everything else, it's hard for me to have that attachment that I once did with the older games. But in terms of like making videos, I feel bad on this channel, because there were a lot of people who followed me for Resident Evil related stuff. Like I have lore videos on like Biohazard Clanmaster, which is like a mobile game that had a lot of interesting stuff that only came out in Japan for Resident Evil, and that's no longer going, but I do have information about it, and other sites eventually started covering it too. I have those videos. Funny enough, the one video where I simply just fucked around with the instruments on that Resident Evil Director's Cut basement theme, the trumpets, the clown farts in the basement one, the one video that is still getting a lot of views and comments, even now, somehow, that's, there's that's still going on. A lot of people follow me because of that, and some people asked me if I would like try and do the same method on other tracks from that OST for Director's Cut. I don't know if I can use the same method to do it anymore, because honestly, that video was just me fucking around, and somehow that got attention by a lot of people. But I do feel bad that I can't really think of what to do in regards to Resident Evil anymore. Like, obviously, there's still content that exists around that I can explore that is tied to current hobbies. Like, I still have a video. I have a video I did in the past where I'm running around exploring some maps in VR chat. in regards to Resident Evil, and there's been some new ones that I know that have been posted. Like this one, you know, a lot of them are from like the remakes and stuff, but you can definitely get a hold of some of the older games environments and probably do ports. And maybe that's something I could do. Take the time to actually like port some other environments from Resident Evil games into VR chat and like, you know, and make videos on it and stuff. I'm not sure. Honestly, and there's also people who follow me for the modding stuff too. If you look through the playlist that I have for Resident Evil or the playlist that I have for mods, I did the whole Vinesauce mod, and that fucking thing took 3 months to work on. I didn't really do anything else but work on that mod, and modding's tiring. Modding is really tiring, and because I'm like involved in so many different areas now and stuff, it's hard to like focus on something like that anymore because it takes a lot of work and is very tiring and requires a lot of energy. So I don't even know if it's something I can focus on anymore, especially for a series that I feel I used to be hardcore about, but I feel a bit like not quite as attached that I used to be, enough to motivate me to spend like 3 or 4 or 5 months of my life doing a mod for a past game. I don't know if that's going to happen much. So if you're someone who followed my channel for Resident Evil stuff, maybe you could suggest something to me to like to make a video about. Maybe I can explore, find out what other Resident Evil maps exist in VR chat, and I can cover those. Maybe there's something that I know about from my past as a Resident Evil fan that I can talk about. I figured like the leak stuff would be interesting enough to make a video on. So I don't know. If you can think of something, let me know. Give me a suggestion. Maybe I'll get around to like doing the instrument swap on the director's cut OST. That would take work too, of course. That would be a time investment, but maybe it'll be worth it. If you guys are interested, I have no idea. Give me some suggestions, I guess. But if I can, I can't. You know, I'll just call it a loss that I can't quite recapture that attachment that I used to. I think it's fine though. You know, I can occasionally make stuff related to a series that was very beloved to me. Maybe I can make a video about. I have a lot of Resident Evil merch that I've collected over the years, and I know, at least for the art books, unfortunately, I cannot show stuff from the art books because, you know, given that recent incident I had where Famitsu came after me, or Katakawa, for the magazine scans, Capcom has a policy about sharing art book scans and stuff now, so I can't show the inside of art books I have, but I definitely have a bunch of other stuff that maybe I could share. Do a little video where I just share like what I've collected for over a few years. Not few years, over a very long time as a Resident Evil fan, Resident Evil stuff. Maybe I show that stuff off. I don't know. But, if you follow me for Resident Evil stuff, you know, thanks for sticking around. If you do, maybe I'll find something. But I do appreciate if you tune into this video to listen to my stories.